We have Nuno. He's going to be our first speaker. Nuno Oliveira is a product manager at Pipedrive. Is a product research and experimentation talk. And this new product development can be challenging. That's why research and experimentation is so important at Pipedrive. Nuno will be sharing how he has been addressing it and the lessons he has learned so far. Let me just tell you that we are really thankful for Nuno to accept this challenge to talk here at his home today, but also for Pipedrive for having us tonight. So thank you, Pipedrive, and please welcome Nuno with a round of applause. Thank you.
Okay, so hi guys, thank you for the introduction. Today I'm going to talk about product research and experimentation. And of course, I'll be sharing some of our experience, but I'll also like to know a bit of your experience during this session. But yeah, first of all, yeah, that's me. Well, pretty much, but yeah, last week. And a little bit about myself. So before we start, well, I love this combination, dogs and cars, just so you know. Well, people are fine. Okay, I love people as well, so it's okay. I came from, my background is from the telco business. But like 6 years ago, I changed the direction into the product management area. And today I work as a product manager at Pipedrive, and mainly focusing on the automations part of the application. So this is me in a slide. And I'd like to start with a quick survey. Okay, so who in here does product research and experimentation in their daily processes or on a daily basis? Well, okay. 10%, 20%, okay. So, have you ever had this moment in your life where, you know, someone approached you and said, just do it. Just, you know, do it. Do it. It's like Ben Stiller. Like, we need to do this. Okay. So saying that you need to do this, and it's exactly what they asked for. It's quite simple, you know. So it's a no-brainer. Just do it. Yeah. So everyone loves to think and come up with solutions, right? That's human nature. I love to do it as well. So it's fun, right? But it could also be, you know, a bit dangerous. Could be a bit of an ego trip because, you know, I like, of course, the solutions I came up with. So I'm biased. So why is it important to do product research and experimentation? You need to know and empathize with your customers, right? So in order to then have solutions, you need to understand their lives, their problems, their struggles. Also, you need reliable data, right? Because otherwise it's just opinions and your opinion against another opinion, and yeah, pretty much speculation. Also, it helps you reduce the blind spots because you collaborate with other people that have different approaches, different information. So at the end of the day, you come up also with a better understanding of the reality. Yeah, and also gives you autonomy, right? You don't have Ben Stiller, you know, saying to you, just do this, which for me at least, I find it a bit frustrating, right? So when people come up with me, just say, yeah, I just need to do this. That's quite simple. Well, it could be a case, but it could not be the case as well. So there's a high risk of not delivering what, or not solving a problem that our customers have. And this is the risk, right? We are just building stuff our users don't use. So there's a lot of features that our users don't really use. They are just there, but no usage. So this also poses a churn risk, right? Because you're building, so you're not being efficient, and also your competitors maybe are doing better than you. Some people just, you know, see that, oh, this is a better fit for me, and I'll leave because you are not helping me solving the problems that I have. So how do we do it here at Pipedrive? Of course, this will be very high level. Of course, there's also questions that you guys can pose after this. But let's just first, you know, distinguish between maybe two different researches. One is baseline research, I think the most important one, and the first in terms of the stage of the process. So where we try to understand the mental models, try to translate into job stories to understand, okay, what is the journey of our customers? How are their lives? Try to really understand what they do. Then, of course, based on that, we start to identify patterns, gaps, opportunities, and we start, you know, thinking about some bets. What can we do to solve those problems? And of course, this information will loop back into the vision and strategy of the company, ideally. Then that's, well, I call it bets research, but basically is after, you know, you do this work, you already have some opportunities or some things that you feel that, oh, this could be something. There's not much still into it, so you need still to research, and of course prioritized based on your company objectives and vision and strategy. Let me just talk a little bit about our high-level process. This is the mission framework. This is public, so you can have a look. I think there's a very interesting blog post of our CTO, Sergey Anikin, about this. And we'll be talking more about the preparation phase today. So this is where, okay, where we identify the problem, right? By doing research, then also validating with some experimentation, and ideating as well possible solutions. And after that, we pitch and gather the team to execute. Of course, during the execution bit, we are still iterating and testing with users and validating, but the idea is that we have less risk and less blind spots when we go into the execution mode. And of course, then another phase is after the demo. So we have the pitch moment. I don't know if this has a pointer, but there's a pitch moment. Then there's a demo where we show the work that was done during the mission. And of course, then we measure the results and gather data, understand what went wrong, what went well, and do it again. So again, there's a pre-mission versus mission phase. Let's call it this way. This is a cross-functional process, meaning that all teams are involved. This is not only product engineering, marketing. So it's a cross-functional process. The timeline varies, of course, depends on the mission, on the project, but there's a time limit, let's say, of 6 months for preparation and execution phases. So that it's not too big. If it's more than this, we need to split it into different projects or missions. In terms of kinds of researches, we do qualitative research, which is the beginning, let's say, of the research, where we do a lot of interviews. I think we are really, you know, lucky that we have a lot of customers to talk with, and they are really friendly here at Pipedrive. So it's, of course, it's easier for us. But yeah, I really recommend you to talk with customers on a regular basis. This is one great source of empathizing and understanding your customers. Then there's also job shadowing. It's not that easy in terms of, it's not that practical because it also depends on your user base, where they are. we are also lucky that we have a sales team, so we also can use our sales team to do some job shadowing because our product is for salespeople. But yeah, this is trickier, I would say, but it's worth a try. And there's also an option to research by design, meaning that you can also, if you have a bet, an idea, you can sketch something and try to get some research out of it from the customer. But I will go more into detail into the interview bit. Also, there's quantitative, okay? One is survey, so when we want to know more numbers, right? So how many people have one kind of pain? What kind of pains do they have? How frequent is the pain, right? This is very important for us to quantify and try to prioritize the opportunity we are looking after. Also, of course, have product metrics, very important to understand if we are talking about a feature that is already in use and we want to optimize it, also to understand what are people doing, are they using it, what are the bottlenecks in the usage. Also, another source is feedback from support interactions. This is also very important to understand what are people saying, even though, of course, it's maybe a small portion of all the users, because not all of users will be talking to support. Social media could also be a source. Try to understand what people say. There's groups in various social media platforms that you can have a look. You can also have like fake features to understand and to measure how many people interact with that. So to understand the appeal of the feature. Yeah, and do it again, you know, until it's clear. And depending, so it's in terms of the process, you need to understand and question, what do I need to know, right? What is there that I don't know yet that is, you know, keeping me from the next stage? And that will help you understand, oh, do I need to do interviews? Do I need to do a survey? What kind of tool do I need to really use? On the toolkit, so I'll talk about some tips from our experience, of course. So interviews, it's very important to understand who you want to talk with, right? Depends on the thing that you are looking after. So you need to understand, who should I interview? Is it pro users? Is it users that never use the tool? Depends, right? So it's very important to understand what is your target. Also, when sending invitations, you should also try to make it you know, appealing so that people reply, but not too pushy, right? So it's a balance that you need also to have. On the questions, open-ended questions, okay? Don't lead the customer into what you think should be the answer. So this is very hard to do. This is maybe one of the most difficult things to do. It's not to lead the customer into an answer. Okay, this is very, very important. Different people should run it, not only product managers or researchers, also designers, developers. So it's very important that everybody understands the customers, not only product managers. So if you can, you can have your team doing it, it's very, very, very good idea. 2 people at a time. We found out that it's important that one maybe is more focusing on the questions and listening, and the other one is taking notes, so that maybe different things that the customer said are you know, listened in different ways. So it's better than to discuss with someone else. Okay, oh, I heard this, but I heard differently. So it's important also to have more than 1 people, and also record it, of course, if the customer allows it. But so we ask every time if you can record the call, so that then we can listen again and do the analysis and derive the insights. In terms of the surveys, some tips as well. It should be short and clear. Okay, of course it depends, but this is like, don't try to overwhelm people with a lot of questions and subjective questions. So be objective. Also set the goal for each question you pose. So it's very easy to start adding questions to a survey. Oh, I need to throw this, and that. But at the end of the day, maybe you end up with a lot of redundant questions. And you need to really review the questions and understand why am I asking this? What am I getting out of this question? Otherwise, just drop it if you don't feel that you're getting anything out of it. Also, test it before with a smaller group. This is very important to understand, because sometimes the copy is confusing, people don't understand it, they get stuck on a question. So this helps you validate this as well. And yeah, get the timing right. So when you send the survey, take into account maybe the time zones where people live, so that they get this at the time that makes sense for them. And sometimes you need to give some incentives. So you can offer some gift cards, depending on the survey. And yeah, so in terms of interview questions, do you think this is a good question to pose on an interview with a customer? It's not. It's not because you're asking an opinion, right? So that doesn't really mean a lot. And what about this one? Could you talk me through the last time you had this problem? Do you think this is a good one? Yeah, it is. It is because it's an open question. You are making, the user or the customer talk about an experience that he has. So you will understand better his life. So this is a very good question. And this one can lead to a lot of other questions. So this could be almost your script for the entire interview. Just do this question, then, of course, you need to understand what you like to know. But yeah, this is a very good one. So typically a good question does not assume the problem, okay? It also does not ask for an opinion and gets the customer to talk about a real example or a real experience. So these are the ones that we try to pose our customers. Yeah, so experimentation. Okay, yeah, solutions. Yeah, we like to talk about solutions, right? And come up with the best one. So first you need to diverge, right? You need to have a lot of different solutions, different people, not afraid of, saying stupid things, because in this moment there's no stupid things. And then converge, and we have maybe a couple of alternative solutions. So do this collaboratively, of course. The whole team should be represented, okay? Developers are very important to be here as well. Even in research, okay? They're important because loss in translation is very easy, okay? And when people are too far away from the customers, it's almost like the product manager is saying, no, it's like this to the developers, and it's not like this. It's maybe what they heard from the customers, but there's a loss on translations there. So if you can involve the dev team in the research and in experimentation, it's quite a plus. So in terms of experimentation, you should test solutions with users, right? Like you should test it. You should understand. You should look at them using it, ask questions, create clickable prototypes. Maybe you can also use mocks, quite fast mocks. It could be really, really fast. Also incorporate the feedback and design a new version, iterate on this. And by the end, if you can do this really well, you can have a scope and an initial estimation and can start the implementation, or just drop it. Just don't do it because it's not worth it. If you don't find the solution, just stop it. Even the research, it's even more important. So when we research and don't feel that it's, or don't see from the data that it's a big problem, just don't do anything else. Just stop there and go to the next idea. Some tips here. So design sprints, I feel and I find to be very interesting tools for this moment of experimentation, to diverge and converge. Planning in advance, that's a tip. Because you need to save the date, because it's could be a full week if you do the proper design sprint. So people need to save the date, need to be free, available to work 100% dedicated on the design sprint. Also, you need to invite users for interviews during the design sprint. You should prepare for that as well. Prepare very well the problem statement. This is very important for the design sprint, to make everyone on the same page, bring the research data, bring everything very well prepared so that on the first day you can share this with the team. Also have a very diverse team, of course. Read a book the week before. Yeah, I think this is a very good advice because yeah, I've done it without reading the book and reading the book, and it's quite different. So read the book. You don't need to, of course, do everything as the book is saying, but at least it will help you during the sprint. And yeah, don't skip the facilitator. This is a very important role. Otherwise, you can end up with discussions, people, losing track of time, and just, yeah, it's not productive. So have the facilitator in the design sprint as well. On the prototype testing, prepare the script very well, because you need to understand what do you want to take out of the test, right? So you need to understand what is your script. Also, the same as interviews, what are your target in terms of users? Different people should run it as well. 2 people at a time. This is the same for interviews. Record, take notes after. And do we need to do this all the time? Yeah, seems like a lot of work, right? No, you don't need to do it every time, depending on the problem that you're trying to solve. Of course, there's smaller things, smaller improvements that, a drop down is a drop down, right? You're not testing or researching a drop down. So, of course, this is for bigger project, bigger features, bigger things that you need to understand better and reduce the risk. Some benefits and lessons from our experience as well. So one main benefit, yeah, is this one, right? So it reduces the risk of, going into a build trap. So building things that people don't use. It helps us really understanding, okay, this is a need, how to do it, and hopefully have better people really using it. Alignment across, the team, and then they speak the same language, because if they work together during this process, it's much, much easier. Also, the bigger picture is clearer. If you have a good research, you really understand the life of your customer. To understand where are you, solving a problem, and other problems are as well. So you have a bigger picture of your customer, and helps also in the architecture when discussing with development, next steps. Some lessons, find buy-in. It's very, very, it's easy to say because we have buy-in in Pipedrive to do research, but not all companies have, this mindset. So this is important. Time box it. So don't do research for the sake of research, right? You need to also time box it. And iterate to optimize during the implementation. So during the implementation, you also still will be iterating and optimizing. There's a not stop on that phase. Yeah, so how to get buy-in and measure the benefit. So some things that you could do, show the state of the art from reference software companies would be an option. Also have some training for executives about best practices on product management for them really to understand what people are doing. Pitch a pilot project with a small team, and with this team also maybe you can start to measure things and compare it with other projects, right? So if you are doing better in terms of adoption, stickiness, retention, also user satisfaction, and at the end business metrics, you can try to get more buy-in, saying, okay, maybe this process is better than the one that we're doing right now without research or experimentation. And yeah, and finally, just, some tools people like to look at logos. Yeah, some tools that we use, of course, Pipedrive. We use it a lot. Come on. And then, yeah, Zoom. It's the one that we use for the interviews typically. For communication, Slack. Product board we use for the product management bit. Intercom for support and talking with, chatting with customers, and, Marvel, Miro, more for the design bit, Figma. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Confluence, of course. Document. Don't forget to document. And thanks.
Okay, so just quick, who runs the design sprints? You do? Who
Depends.
facilitates?
No. Could be me, could be designers, could be, yeah, depends.
It's always internal stuff, or you also hire external
No. For the time, yeah, internal.
Okay. So we'll have time for Q&A. I really suggest you guys go to Slido. There's a couple of polls there. And thank you, Nuno.
Thanks.
Listening to the poll that we have on Slido, UX designers are winning, or no, sorry, they tied with PMs. Is this true? How many UX designers in the room? Okay, heavy on UX designers over there. How many PMs? No, the PMs kept themselves on the beer. That's why they get. Okay, developers in the middle. Okay, and everyone else like business people. All right. What do you do, Rafael? Trainer coach. Okay, very well. So very active audience tonight. And so let me open maybe with the first question before we actually open the mic to everyone else, while people are still opening Slido and doing their questions. So Nuno, you spoke a lot about research and experimentation. Can you give us some specific examples of Pipedrive using research, and what kind of features were actually built through this process?
Well, pretty much all the recent ones, but I can give the example of the one that I'm working more at the moment, which is workflow automation. So it's an automation framework that you can use to, reduce the admin work of the sales process, basically. So I was not here from the beginning of the process of that feature, but we've added parts of this feature as well during using this process. So research, a design sprint, and then iterating on that mission, all of that. So, and we've seen that right now, at least the results were pretty good in terms of adoption. So what we predicted was actually based on the research that we had, that would be the target, was actually met. So yeah, it's a good example of the benefit of doing it.
How did you select the users for the tests?
Yeah, so in this case, we first looked into the data of our users. So who is using automation? So we understood that mainly it were admin, which is not maybe a surprise, right? It's an automation, it's something more complex. And also we understood that regardless of the seat size, of the size of the company that's using Pipedrive, it's just one or two people setting up automations. So, and that's interesting. So we understood, okay, most of the people are maybe...
So for people understand, everyone familiar with Pipedrive? Anyone that doesn't know what Pipedrive is? It's not a shame, I mean, it's okay. So can you give your pitch of Pipedrive? So what's your name? Marie understands.
Yeah, well, Pipedrive, it's a place where you can so you can have your work basically help you memorize things you need to do, to help you be more effective at your work. Like in the sales process, you need to work with different deals, different leads, a lot of things happening at the same time. So you need something to help you with memory. So that's one thing that software does really well, help you in the memory part, and reduce the manual work. So it also reduces the volume of things that you need to do, like reaching out to customers, understanding in which stage is the process, sending a proposal. So all this process, Pipedrive helps you with that communication as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So and the part that I'm talking about more is the framework of automating the whole process. So you can automate part of your process depending, of course, on your needs. But
Are you using Pipedrive to sell sponsorships for Jam?
No, I wish we had that size. We don't need a tool yet.
It's $25 per month. Not that expensive.
Yeah, actually, I have a lot of one-seaters, so maybe you.
All right, I'll consider it.
Ask Ask for a sponsorship.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Commission.
Yeah, let's talk.
A commission.
Yeah, we are doing the same conference, we shouldn't we?
yeah, we are competitors. Let's forget that for tonight. Okay, so Nuno, there's a very as you see, there's lots of UX people in the room and designers. So what is your relation with designers, and tell us a little bit about the importance of designers to PMs? You know, the old PM designer thing.
Yeah. Well, you have to live with now. I'm just kidding. It's very, very good. It's very close. So there's no really separation between teams in Pipedrive as a team concept. So we call it a tribe, which is like a fancy name for team, I know. But it's a tribe that we have everybody working on.
How many UX people you have in Pipedrive here?
So we have right now 2 designers, but we are hiring. Good question.
You are?
2 designers at the moment. So
okay, anyone looking for UX jobs?
Exactly.
There was someone that wants to do research, but that's not necessarily UX, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, but basically it's very close. We work together on a daily basis. So we work in cross-functional teams. Mm-hmm. So there's no like design, then goes to product and product asks things. So yeah, we work together. So it's quite close.
So we have another question. I think now it's for Mathilde. How was your own career hacking journey?
Love that question. So I started as a PM. Again, didn't really thought I would be doing this.
But your first job was working as a product.
So first job was actually, so I had a small startup that was terrible and that failed, and then I joined a.
You were a founder?
Yeah, well, a founder. Yeah, it was more like an MVP that kind of led nowhere, but that got me into this incubator where I then worked for this other startup that was.
Tell us a little bit about this story.
No, that was just ages ago. It's just the interesting stuff is afterwards. That was an online education platform for students. Something I did when I was studying in the US. Yeah, we don't really care about that.
Okay.
So I started doing product management without knowing it was product management. Kind of like working on on different features, working with the engineers, and as the startup started to grow, I then became their first PM, and then worked for Deliveroo. But I think what's relevant to this talk is that I talked a bit about path dependency and how sometimes we tend to.
I think you have to move maybe a little bit just closer to me, just because there's some feedback there.
So yeah, we tend to kind of like stay in the path because we just invest in time and efforts into it, and that's what kind of happened to me. Like, I had built this career for 4 or 5 years in products, and at the same time, my side project, Jam, so the product conference and a series of events for product makers, started to blow up and really become this thing that I really enjoyed doing and that was profitable. But I kind of didn't really consider it as a viable job or viable career until really recently, until end of last year, really, because I was really tied to this idea, this identity of me as a PM, but I'm a PM. I built my brands as a PM. I work for companies, I help build products. Whilst there was this thing that I really enjoyed doing, that kind of like started growing, and I was discounting that. So I guess career hacking here is that, sure, I had, so basically it's going back to my advice of like considering things as new opportunities as they arise and being flexible with your career path. Because down the line, if I want to, do product management again, which I do from time to time as a freelancer, it's still possible. I don't know if that's relevant or not, but that's I don't know who asked that question, if that was the goal of the question, but I think it's just staying open to change, I guess.
All right, staying open to change. So actually, let's just open the mic to the floor. Anyone wants to do any question? To either Nuno, Mathilde, yeah, because I don't see so much activity here on Slido, but I can move again to the next one, which is for, well, it doesn't say to whom it is, but it says from whom it is. It's from Pedro Alves. Are you still in the room? You are. So you might want to do the question yourself.
On the spot.
for Nuno. And my
Okay.
question, wow. And my question is, how does product research links to user research? I'm a user researcher myself, so I was quite. Is it only a buzzword? Because I've been hearing that word, that naming for quite a while, and I was wondering how user researchers mix. How do they bring value to product research?
Okay. So are you asking how user research work with the product team?
No, how user research works with product research. You talked a lot about product research, about that buzzword, okay? And I thought, well, this is a rephrasing, or is it really a thing? So I was wondering.
So we have both. So we have user research. That we have a team that does the user research. So basically covers. So it's an independent team that works with us as well. So they do everything about knowing the user. So knowing the mental models, everything about the user. So not tied with the product at all. So, okay. So, and then based on that, we of course understand gaps and opportunities, and we can research based on product as well. So, but that's the first, stage.
It's kind of like a two-tier approach.
Yeah.
It's a tricky question. Have you ever been surprised by the user? Like when you're doing the user research, you go like, really, that they do that? Or like, oh, you have no idea about something?
Almost every time. Yeah. So because that's the thing with research, right? We go with our pre-concept, our ideas, our experience, our lens, right? So we tend to assume, oh yeah, they should do this way, right? That's how I would do it. But actually, most of the time it's not. So that's one of the reasons that it's so important to do it. So there's a lot of surprises, and the way people hack the system and automation is a very complex thing, right? So there's a lot of people that want to do something that maybe it was not intended to do in the first place, but they find a way to do it. And then we need to understand, so why are they hacking the system, right? So maybe there's a reason behind it. So that's always the process, trying to understand the why.
Do you struggle, or do you ever struggle actually convincing the other people that people do that? Like, let's say you have like a dev team and you go like, guys, you have no idea what I find out. And they go like, no, it's not true. Like, do you ever have a situation that you have actually a hard time to convince people that people actually do things?
Well,
that's why you show them the recording. Look, it happened.
Oh, this is the company. Look at the database. I won't say it's a hard time, but yeah, they are more surprised than maybe I am sometimes that, no, that's not possible. And I say, yeah, but have a look at this. Yeah, oh, when you show them, evidence, numbers, makes sense. And that's why also it's one of the reasons if they are involved with you during that phase, it's easier. So it's less of like a lost in translation problem. Like, oh, I've seen this. And they say, no, that's not that. Even in language. So maybe I'll talk something or a term that they interpret in a different way. So they say, no, this is not possible. And then they understand what I'm saying and say, oh, okay, that's what you're saying. Yeah, that's possible. So yeah, it's important to be, on the same page. So yeah, if they can join the research, the dev team, makes it easier.
So the question is, what's the basic product knowledge an entrepreneur needs to build a successful company when you still don't have budget to hire PMs or UX designers? Well, you can always take our course in Product Digital. But Mathilde, this might actually be good for you. You were a failed entrepreneur, but you're now a successful. But you're now a successful entrepreneur. So
now you go home and cry.
No. I'm not. I'm just playing around. So what do you think? This is actually a question that comes pretty often. I was speaking with an entrepreneur. I don't remember, with you. Yes. Yeah. And you were saying, you're actually, fuck. This is tricky to do. But the question is related to what we were talking about during the break, right? You said, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a PM. But actually, every single entrepreneur is a PM in a certain way, right?
Yeah. So you're asking the most important skills to develop yourself as a founder. Is that the question? So I think there's two things, right? It depends on what stage you're at. If you're kind of like at the stage where you need to validate what you're building, you don't have a clear business model, you really have to understand how to talk to, it sounds obvious, right? To talk to users and customers. And it doesn't have to be through those crazy user research frameworks that we, that we hear about. It's just about making sure that you have the insights that you need to build the right thing. Because especially if you have a small team, right? This is so costly. You're gonna have to hire people to build the MVP that you scoped in the back of a napkin, right? So it's making sure that you understand that you kind of like gather the right information. Maybe you need to talk to 5 customers, maybe 10. Maybe if you have a B2C product, it's more. Maybe you have to do some quick and dirty user testing with some envision prototypes that cost you nothing to build. And that's, yeah, those are PM skills, right? This is at some point you're gonna delegate that to a PM once you do other things as a founder. So I don't know what your product is, but. And then if you're already at that stage where you have this thing that's working and you have users and it's all good, you're in kind of like founder paradise, or at least for a while, then it's about, I think, just leading. Like if you don't have a team, you might have an engineer or two building or helping you build, or a co-founder. And it's about, I think communication is the key thing here, because I think the skill that just is true for any type of PM or founder who is building a product is communicating exactly why you're building the thing that you're building it, and so then you ended up building it the right way, not just spending time and resources doing the wrong thing. So kind of like, yeah, those two things, insights and then.
Okay, we have.
Hi, so this is a question for both of you, each on your topic. So what do you find that it's still missing, be it on your research and experimentation process or work, and your career or your...
I'm a failed entrepreneur, so everything is missing.
On this, so in Pipedrive, I would say that even this framework mission that I talked about is also always evolving. So right now, actually, we are in a mission of understanding how we can improve the mission. And one of the things that maybe could be improved is with this framework, we are dedicating a lot of time like to new features or big features, right? So one challenge is also how do we how can it coexist with feature improvements, like small improvements, maybe really small things, but since you are really focusing like big things, you don't have focus to that. So you need to balance also. So that could be tricky because you can end up not iterating on things that you already built, but building new things. So that could be also a problem. So that could be something that we can improve, and we are discussing how to do that.
I was trying to listen, but also to think about it. You're asking what's missing from what? From my career? Loads of things. Yeah. So now that me and my co-founder are a small remote team, we're growing Jam, not just a conference, but a series of events. Our priority is really to kind of like build. So far, the conferences, the events were our products. Now we're building the internal tools that we need to scale. So it's kind of like making sure that we build the right thing on that front. And then just like figuring out what it means to be this, as we make this transition from a 2-people startup to, from a side project to a real business, I guess, is to how do you hire, how do you lead people remotely, and how do I find this identity as a founder whilst I live in Lisbon now, like alone in Lisbon, and my team is somewhere else. And there's plenty of other things, but right now it's really our focus is to kind of like create those new experiences for makers, for PMs, not just conferences, but retreats, like fun events, and organize them remotely. It's kind of what I'm, still figuring out how to do well, and motivating a team. And right now we're reorganizing our Slack channels and doing all those stand-ups and those things that, when you're in the same room, it's easy, right? But how do you motivate people, and how do you when you are like, you have a few freelancers who work on your company, and then you have one full-time person and your co-founder is somewhere else, and you still have to communicate what needs to be done and built. So that's what my top priority right now.
Always convince Seb to move to Lisbon as well, right?
No, he doesn't. He built a house in Luxembourg. He's not moving anytime soon. Try though.
Expensive rent. Okay. Actually, we have another question, which is actually quite fun. How do you get people to fill up the surveys? Because someone here says they had a pool of 1,500 emails of people who have bought our product, but only 5 replied to our survey. You want to reveal yourself? No. Okay. That's how shameful it is. They don't even want to say who they are.
Maybe that's for me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There's you can also, of course, in this case, maybe cannot increase the number of users, but that's all the users they have. So in our case, but in our case, we sometimes increase, of course, to get more users. So that's the cheat mode. Some things that we've done. So we've done both, sending by email, and we've tested also to have an in-app, prompt with a quick question. So people just need to click, just like one click, and that's it. Just 1-2 questions. And we realize, of course, the ratio of the conversion of people that actually respond, it's much higher in those cases. So that could be an option, being more in context, without the email. It also depends on how much time people spend on the software, right? So, but yeah, that could be an approach that we've used.
On the software and the product and lots of things.
Yep.
Okay, if you want to reveal yourself, you can always at the end of the Q&A go and talk to Nuno. Okay, so we have another question here, which is, I confuse if Nuno is a product designer or a product manager. Can you explain yourself better?
I'm definitely not a product designer.
Okay.
Yeah, you haven't seen me drawing, so I understand the question. But yeah, I'm a product manager. But of course, as we work together very closely, as a product manager, I also participate in design sprints, in research. Our researcher also participates in the design sprint and definition of maybe the prototype. So it's pretty much shared. So there's not like a role for product manager stops here and ends there, starts here and ends there. So yeah, but I'm a product manager.
Mathilde, you like the word maker better, right? Why is that?
Well, I don't like it better. It's just that so many different types of people came to our events, designers, founders, and we were just like, what do we call these people? And they're not. And we came up with makers because it just, speaks to this idea of like building whatever you do in the process, wherever you are in the team, you're striving to create something and to turn an idea into a reality. But I think, I have no worries with the title issue with the product manager title. There's some companies like Founders Factory in London calling their PMs like product hackers and stuff. But I mean, you call yourself whatever you want as long as you're happy with the work that you do.
Okay. Actually, I have a question to you, which is, you've been doing Jamf so this is going to be your 6th edition this year. And how do you think that the space has changed for the last 5-6 years? Do you see any difference from 2015 when you did the 1st edition? Do you see it's bigger? Do you see if it's more active? How do you see the evolution?
So I think in terms of like the topics, we've kept the same line of like, we don't really invite thought leaders or people who publish books. It's just people who do the work behind the scenes, who are ready to share their stories, their failures. So here I wouldn't, because we curate on specific themes, I wouldn't be able to tell you, okay, maybe people want to talk more about design sprints now, great, but I don't think that's just that interesting. But I think the question around, what has changed is, and maybe it's because of the different strategy and direction that we've taken, I see people liking more and more those smaller experiences, like the retreats where you can, we create conferences, right? It's great. But what really, sometimes the value is what happens when you talk over dinner with a CPO at Intercom that ends up giving you a job, or maybe you solve a challenge this way. And that was our hunch from the beginning with my co-founder. We were like, we want to create like summer camp for adults in product, for makers. And we did the first one in Wales, the one we're doing it again. And I think this is what I've seen change is kind of the moment we announced that event, but then it never happened because we didn't have the time to organize it. 3 years ago, we're like, we're going to do this retreat. People were like, oh my God, yes, that's what I've been waiting for the whole time. Then we didn't do it. And when we finally did it last year, I knew I had this intuition, and I knew it was something, at least that I found exciting, and I think a lot of people find exciting as well. I hope it doesn't sound salesy. That was not my intention.
Not at all.
Other things that changed. Well, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just such a vibrant industry. Like, people are so excited to come together and learn from each other, and I think it's just great because it's not that many industries where you have that type of like sharing. And I don't know. I've only done this, so I guess like, what am I saying?
Nuno, what is still missing in your opinion? Are you still recruiting PMs here for Pipedrive Lisbon, or?
Not at the moment.
No.
Not at the moment. What you say was still missing?
For the PM community here in Lisbon, Mathilde just moved to Lisbon recently, so
last
she's
April.
new in town.
Oh, big.
Yeah. No, not that new. 6 months. It's already in Lisbon. So, what, in your opinion, what's still missing? Is it people? Is it big enough community? What enough companies with product managers?
Yeah, I would say more events like this. Maybe from what I've seen, like meetups typically are more oriented to development.
Yeah.
So not that much to product. So I would say that could be something that could improve.
What's your most inspiring Portuguese tech company right now?
Don't have one that I want to say.
Don't sell your country really well.
Not Pipedrive, other than Pipedrive, which is now almost half Portuguese because you have so many people here.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, we're going to wrap this up. So starting with Mathilde, do you want to give us any last insight, inspiration, message, takeaway, whatever?
Big responsibility. No, just I'm really happy to be here in Lisbon. I love this city, and I really want to connect more with product people here. So I've been a hermit, like in my remote cave for the past year. So
people want to find you.
Twitter is best, so it's Mathilde_Leo. And yeah, I mean, just happy to connect and also share any more, not inspiration, but I guess if you have any questions on product, communities, side projects, and so on. I'm really excited about this particular topic on career growth, and I'm only starting to scratch the surface.
Are you starting to coach people on this topic?
Coaching is a big word. It's more like I've started to formalize a bit. I always loved helping my friends, getting promotions, getting remote jobs, and yeah, just like every month I have those free sessions that I offer to people in my network. But that's just something that I do for fun. But
okay. So
yeah.
If you want to have a free session with Mathilde, we're here. The
keyword is free. Come talk
just
to me.
Ping you on Twitter. Okay. Nuno, how can we find you, and should we find you?
Well, maybe not. Well, I'd say LinkedIn.
Yeah.
The best option. You guys have my email as well in Pipedrive. But yeah, pretty much. I hope you enjoyed it. It was useful for you guys, and hope to also see you in the next meetup.
Are you responsive on LinkedIn if people actually?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Unless
okay, guys.
I don't.
So ping Nuno, ping Mathilde, and just a few extra slides that we have on the presentation to tell.
I found the Productize experience to be amazingly high energy and consistent, and I mean consistent in a really good way. The energy in my workshop was tremendous. People came to learn, they came to discuss, they came to talk. We had really good conversations.
Sharing all the stuff that everybody kind of has to figure out all the time themselves.
How do we lead people? How do we make people move? How do we handle resistance? How do we inspire them? You will find yourself in workshops with some amazing people who are skilled, eager to learn, share their experiences, and together we sort of create knowledge.
I spent my whole day today at the Productize conference. I was there from the very first talk from Zacarias, which was actually quite good. So I was following most talks today, was also especially inspired of Marty Kagan's talk about empowered teams, because I think that's for us is currently a big topic. So yeah, it was great learnings. So in general, I think the talks were like from very high quality, so it was really, really interesting.
So I was really impressed with the lineup of the speakers that came, both internationally and nationally. The kind of stories they brought, they real life examples.
I've had a great time, it's been amazing, everyone's been super helpful, and also for networking and getting to know other people and sharing your common pains and frustrations.
All the talks today were on point. There were some shared themes across the entire day. I really feel like if you came here as a participant, you really heard consistent themes, but different angles on each one, and I think that's a huge win for the conference.
Of course, also the exchange with other product managers was quite interesting to see where we do have similar challenges.
The product management community is still highly underserved, and the more that we can get the community together, the more we can learn from each other, the more we can see what tools are working, what techniques are working, and how we end up building better companies, better products, and better services that meet customer needs and make us and our customers successful.
I think we're about to shape the future of product management here together. That's great.